Welcome to another week of independent wine advice from yours truly, Ben Edwards, and my esteemed colleague, Daniel Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Today, it's all about our cousins from across the Tasman, where we're going to talk about choice Pinot brew.
Well, I know it all feels like there is an absolute tsunami of Sav Blanc hitting our shores at the moment, but the good thing about a tsunami, it eventually goes back into the ocean. So hopefully what's left is some fantastic Pinot Noir. New Zealand isn't all just about Sav Blanc. Yes, they do it very, very well, and a lot of people drink it. I'm glad somebody enjoys drinking it, because it's certainly not me. But I would much prefer to drink their New Zealand Pinot Noirs. We've got a great little selections from both North and South Islands.
When people think of New Zealand, they do tend to think of white wines,
yes,
which is kind of silly because the landscape is dotted with really beautiful examples of red wines, and Pinot Noir is the one that's capturing the imagination of the world wine lovers at large. So what we're going to look at is the North Island and then a little bit of South Island. In fact, a lot of South Island, because that's where the majority of the Pinot comes from. So we're going to get straight into it. We've got 4 wines to get through. We've got plenty of lovely little descriptors to come up, because that's what Pinot Noir does to us. We get a little bit, you know.
Well, it is one of those most passionate styles. It's that variety that gets everyone pumped up, you know. And why not? It's delicious.
Okay, so the first one we're going to look at is the Tatera, which is from Martinborough Vineyard in Martinborough. Now, Martinborough can be found on the southern tip of the North Island, and Martinborough's got a really lovely climate for producing full-bodied, full-flavoured, quite rich styles of Pinot Noir, and you get this lovely underlying sort of herbal kind of character, which is like dried herbs, but then you get this lovely gorgeous swathe of black fruits that comes through and just gives you a really lovely lift at the end. So beautiful texture, and look for weight and power. This particular wine from Martinborough Vineyard is not quite as deep as some of the wines from Martinborough, and has a lovely sort of red cherry overlay, but still has this wonderful power underneath. I particularly like this wine. It is their younger vine fruit, so it's all about drinking this at an earlier stage while you wait for their estate wine or their granddaddy wine to reach full maturity. Absolutely beautiful stuff. 90 points. Drink it, and not necessarily in moderation.
Which, if I couldn't agree more. Now, this next one, we're heading off to Nelson, which is at the northwest corner of the South Island. Now, this is a very sort of cool area, okay? Probably more famous for, say, aromatic white wines, such as, say, Riesling, also Pinot Gris, and that other great variety. What's it called? I can't remember. But this particular producer, Neudorf, is a fantastic example of Pinot Noir. There's the Mouteray Vineyard, which is named after the hills that actually surround the area. And here we're starting to see that lovely sort of red fruit character, a lovely bit of more sort of tannic edge structure to it, lovely red fruits and cored fruit. This is a particularly good vintage, you know, it's quite a nice little bit of ripeness to it and a lovely structure to it. I quite like that style of wine.
Yeah, but there's a bit of depth and a bit of richness to it. Now, the first one was an 09, so 09 was a vintage they were really happy with. The second one is an 08. Now, what we're seeing there is just that more sort of savoury character to it, and definitely a bit more of a tannin punch.
And it's for that tannin punch which makes me think about food. That's a delicious wine.
We're going to move a little bit east right now. We're going to head to Marlborough, and it's true that they make some great variety over there called Sauvignon Blanc, but the reality is the really exciting stuff, and for me especially, because I get a bit excited by Pinot Noir, is Pinot. And the reason being is that they've got this beautiful terroir in what we call the Southern Valleys for making some really terrific stuff. Now, what I see in these wines from further down in that area in the Southern Valleys are these lovely red fruits, really bright cherried fruits, but also this savoury mineral edge. And so the alcohols tend to be a bit lower, the fruit seems to be a bit lighter, and more acid and more punch to the drive. So if you like the more European style, maybe Marlborough's calling. This Delta wine, great value, 2008. Big year, but not so much for the Pinot Noir, definitely for the Sauvignon Blanc. And we're seeing just, I mean, beautiful colour, lovely fresh fruit, cherries galore, and I really enjoy this wine. Again, we're sort of looking in that 90-point spectrum, great value.
You know, I think that when we talk about Pinot Noir, finding a good wine around that sort of price point, around that $25 to $30 mark, is very, very difficult. And this last wine, this Wild Rock Cupid's Arrow Pinot Noir from Central Otago, for me, is my absolute go-to wine around that price point. Central Otago, you know, let's face it, it is probably, in my opinion, it's one of the top 5 most stunning wine growing regions in the world. It is absolutely epic.
It's extreme.
It's extreme. They call it the most dangerous wine growing region in the world.
Is that because of the way you behave when you're in Central Otago?
Possibly, or also the extreme sports being bungee jumping, skiing, snowboarding and jet boating. Absolutely fantastic. Now, this particular wine, Central Otago, tend to see, even though it's quite far south, you'd expect to see almost sort of cooler fruit characters. It's almost the opposite because of that very wonderful diurnal fluctuation. There's a great word for your next dinner party, being that day and night temperature, that complete difference. Okay, they tend to be a little bit richer, denser, riper, more powerful. And this is what I quite like about this wine. It's got that lovely juicy fruit character, that ripeness, but then has still got that acid structure and back up to, you know, to make it nice and cleansing and approachable. I really love this wine. I've put this on a number of wine lists. I just think it's absolute bang for your buck.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm still stuck in diurnal fluctuation. So, I mean, it's pretty hard to get away from that sort of terminology. One of the other things about these ones, these are actually pretty good value wines, although the Neudorf is at the higher end in terms of price, but the others are all pretty well priced. They would be even better priced if the government, our federal government, had decided to take on some of the suggestions from the Henry Tax Review. Good, okay, so that's enough for this week. Come back again, tune in and get a little bit more independent wine advice from us. Cheers.
Cheers.